as he was listening to them talk, he realized when Kissinger was talking, Kissinger, you know how he talks, he can be very drawn out and slow. And as Kissinger was talking, he knew that he wasn't contriving what he was saying. Just like at the moment, I'm just speaking to you lucidly. I'm not, coming up with this with some kind of contrivance in my mind. So he knew that he wasn't struggling, and he was curious where the inspiration came from for the next thing, what you say. And he kind of zoomed in on his mind on Kissinger's lips, and he slowed it down. He realized at the end of the sentence there was a sound. There was a sound that came through his lips, and that sound, that vibration, actually inspired the next statement, the next thought, and that was what was making him intelligent. And that thought struck him so powerfully that he said he immediately sat up, straight up in the bed. He said, "I understand." And what he understood was that the source of our intelligence is really harmonic. It's about the languages that we speak, and it's about the sounds of those languages and how they affect the brain. And lo and behold, not too long after that, UCLA did a big study, and they measured people's brain waves while they were speaking different languages. They had, for instance, one gentleman who spoke both English and the Hopi language. And when he was speaking the Hopi language, it was predominantly, I can't remember if it was the right or left hemisphere working, but one side of his brain was predominantly very active during the use of that language, and when he would speak English, the brain activity changed totally to another hemisphere of the brain. And we hear that a lot in languages. Some people say such and such language it's a very emotionally expressive language. People say English is a very business language. But they did this study, and actually then they were studying the brain waves of people using kind of like mantra or sacred tones, sacred sounds from ancient languages, and they found that it created a completely different type of brainwave. And that research really compelled him. So Marco undertook a study of the world's religions, the ancient knowledges, and he studied all the different religions. And towards the end of that, he came across what is his religion now, which is called the Baha'i Faith. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Baha'i Faith, but fairly well known around the world. It comes from Iran about 150 years or 175 years ago. I won't get too much into the background on all that, but the scriptures, there was a prophet who claimed that he was giving a new revelation, and he did really amazing things. I mean, he revealed a whole scripture like this, called the Book of Certitude, like in 2 nights, just straight off the top of his head. And he was doing these amazing things like that, wrote some epistle, 10,000 verses without ever lifting the pen from the page. And when you read even the translations of it, it's stunning, the intellectual acuity and just the quality of the writing that someone could do that. And it was done before lots of witnesses. And anyway, so the whole topic of these writings was about learning the name of God and the fundamental Holy Mother tone or sound of what's called the Most Great Name of God. And so the idea was that if you could intonate this name right, it would be like the skeleton key for linguistic aptitude or intelligence, that actually the harmonic, the sound, would synchronize. He didn't put it in this language, but allow me to be a little more modern and say it would synchronize your brain waves. It would create a whole different type of way of tapping into intelligence or inspiration. And so where this equation comes from is a mathematical decryption of the Most Great Name of God from that scripture, okay? So the name, the Most Great Name of God, according to this tradition, is said to be Baha. So a Baha'i is one who follows Baha. And it means glory or light or splendor. You see it, it's mentioned in the Bible, when Jesus said he will return the glory of the Father. In the original Aramaic language, the word is Baha. You see it in Buddhism. So the comparative case of the word is Baha. It's said to represent this world manifestation. It has an equation, a mathematics to it. And this was a big thing at the time. I mean, people wrote poetry that was mathematically constructed. It was an art. The mathematics and the language were considered one. They used it for all their counting and their calculation at the time. And also just for beauty. So the comparative case of the word is Baha. The superlative case of the word, or the supreme, the ultimate case of the word is Abha, A-B-H-A, or it's really Aleph, Ba-Ha, Aleph, if you speak Arabic. Abha is said to represent the spiritual world within this world, and it's said to represent the higher body of manifestation. And so Marco wanted to decrypt the mathematics behind it in order to learn how to say it correctly, in order to learn how to tap into this higher intelligence. So in these scriptures, and in many scriptures, if you're familiar, my background was in studying religion. That's what I did here at UVA too. And if you're familiar with a lot of the ancient traditions, you'll know that this is the case. There seems to be this almost unnatural veneration of the number 9 throughout traditions as diverse as Celts to the Chinese, to the Norse, to Iran. And it's almost kind of strange, when you really pull out and look at what is said about this number. Particularly in these scriptures, it's very deeply emphasizes such statements as the universe is created after 9 conditions. Or, in the most great name of God, the equation being 1, 2, 5, 1 equals 9 when you add all the numbers together. So 9 is said to represent the protected, hidden energy of God, of nature. And it said in those texts that if you could decrypt it, if you could understand it, you would have the key to all sciences, that any science would be unraveled by it. And it says that you would then have access, literally, and this is before the steam engine, I believe, that you could have access to an energy which required no fuel and produced no fumes, which was a statement that really struck me in those texts. So without going too much deeper into that, I just wanted to give you a little bit of where this came from. So Marco wanted to try and decrypt it mathematically to understand how to intonate it properly, because he knew that just saying Abha wasn't working. It just seemed too slow, too human. It wasn't affecting his brain, and he thought that if he was really doing it right, he should all of a sudden be getting inspiration. He should be understanding things more clearly. He should be more lucid, and he wasn't feeling it. So he drew a circle. You don't see the circle here, but if you look at the stuff online, you'll see that it's based on a cross-section of a circle, which, by the way, most of our profound math really has begun with cross-sections of circles throughout history. So it's not that new to do a cross-section of a circle, but this was a little different design. So the equation again was 1, 2, 5, 1. That was the equation of the numbers. The aleph, or the A, represents the number 1. The B is 2, the H is 5, and again, the 1. So it equals 9, and 9 is said to be the supreme number. So they put 9 at the top, and they simply just drew the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 around in a circle. And where the symbol comes from is that in the course of trying to say it, he realized that the B and the H, which if you study linguistics, the true way to say a B is not a bilabial stop, which means your lips don't completely close. And you still hear this in Spanish, and you see it in some other languages, that the B is actually pronounced more like a V. So the lips don't completely close. And so what he realized is that actually, instead of saying abha slowly, it was making a shape with the lips and allowing the 1, or this aleph, which contains all the vowels, to produce the breath of the sound. So it really sounds, it's kind of more like a, it's this consistent flowing sound. And so he knew that the B and the H, or the 2 and the 5, were in conjunction, that they had a meeting place, which was the 1. So what he did was he drew a line from the 1 to the 2, and he drew a line from the 1 to the 5.